just completely forgot about it. But it was, for me, it was such a big, like those few things was such a big relation because I do that and I'm like super happy. And then all of a sudden I have more energy, I have more focus, I have more motivation just because I did things that I just truly enjoy.
That is so true. And it reminds me, someone was saying, again, another influencer, multiple ones, burning out is not, you don't burn out by just doing too much of things you don't like to do. You burn out by not doing enough of what you love.
Yes. Amen.
And it is so true because those routines and habits that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, they are what's keeping me sane.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Business Savages. Today, fortunately, I have another lady guest with me, pretty special one. Her name is Mouna Laaragat, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. She is the example that I call the shoemaker with the shoes. She helped herself before she started helping others. Mouna, welcome. Please share your story.
Thanks so much for having me, Olia, and thanks for the amazing thing that you're doing, giving a voice to so many people to share their stories. Is definitely something I'm super keen on.
Thank you.
So, in terms of my own story, so today I am a trauma-informed mindset coach and a founder, a female founder. There's still some of those.
Rare, yes.
And what I do with the business that is called the Grid Makers, we are building resilience and we are helping companies, leaders, and individuals build resilience, change their mindset so they can succeed and grow and perform without burning out. That dreadful burnout that has caught all of us at some point. So, yeah, this is a little bit about me in a nutshell. This super well-being, fitness enthusiast, sober, smoke-free person. But what I like to say is that it wasn't always the case. I come from very, very far, and it's that process that led me to where I am today.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How did you come to the realization that you had to let go of some of the habits that were not serving you because you brought up, alcohol free, smoke free? You also talked about getting more into like super fitness routine and all that. How did you come to that realization?
So you pinpointed exactly like the right word is really coming to the habits. And I think habits are really super powerful. Quite a lot of people tie motivation to willpower. And it's always like, oh, I want to do this, but I want to be positive, but I want to launch my business. And people beat themselves up because I don't have the energy, I'm not motivated, etc. If you think from the fact that your willpower is actually a very limited resource.
Right.
So if you're using your willpower every morning, every day, from the moment you wake up, you have to use that surge of motivation to get you to do things. You're actually using up that capacity. So when you want to do these extra things, then you don't have anything left in you.
Right.
So the habits and the power of habits is to have routines that help you to function for all the bases so you can have enough willpower to do that extra. And people get surprised, like, why don't I have the energy to do that extra? Well, because it is an extra. If you are in autopilot, actually not so automated, but you are like using all the energy that you have to get up, to do this, to handle work, to handle that and the family, it's
Right.
super difficult. It's a big strain on you. So for me, it was really understanding that I was in a loop. I was in the rat race. I let my traumas define me, and I've let those defense mechanism define the successful person that I was becoming until it ate me up. And I quickly understood that there are some things that we are doing that are actually self-destructive, that are not actually acts of self-love, and that are not sustainable in the long term. A clear example, when you work in marketing, I would say the amount of people I know who ended up at 4 a.m. in someone else's kitchen doing, we know what, is not really the best way you're going to have sustainable, healthy you in the long term. And I think addictions are something that are chasing a lot of people, especially in big cities like London or any big cities where you get into the loop. It's really eating up the society because we are drawn to escape. We have so much pressure in the rat race that all we have is these moments where we can escape through alcohol, cigarettes, like more partying, the completely meaningless activities that we can do just to forget how tough the present moment is and how tough it is to sit with our emotions.
I have two questions, and both of them revolve around the whole notion of shit hitting the fan, which is something that you and I discussed in the warm up. So, what the first question is, why do you think most of the time we need the shit to hit the fan to make the changes? And then, as a follow up on that, why do you think there are two very distinct, I guess, camps of people? The one who would take that situation as like, okay, I need to do better. And the others who would just be like, all right, yeah, life is just so hard on me. Oh my God, I'm just going to continue in the victim mentality.
So when it comes to change, it's hard. Right. It's very, very hard. It's massive amount of willpower as well.
Right.
That limited resource to change if you don't have any motivator. So most often we wait for shit to hit the fan because you need your discomfort, the discomfort of change to be less than the actual discomfort of your current situation. So you need your situation to be so fucking crap that you're like, that's it, that's enough. I'm done with this shit. I'm going to do better. So it's very hard to take someone who doesn't have that drive
Mm-hmm.
to make that shift and get them to change. Because why would they change?
Right.
It's good, it's comfy, it's comfortable. It's too hard to look at yourself and look at this change and tackle that because change can be hard work. It's not easy. Those stories of how to change your life in 3 simple steps. This is a big lie. It doesn't exist. There's no simple step. You have to be willing to do the work.
The hard work, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to improve really the things. And that's the principle with like even businesses. It's not one training or one workshop that is going to change. It can give you a revealing situation, that light bulb moment that, oh, life can be different. But other than that, it's going to be, what are you going to do about it? How are you continuously and consistently going to practice the new tools that you have been taught? So that's the why. And it's, I have a lot of compassion for people that you meet, in your life that are in different paths and they are not ready for change yet.
Right.
But it's normal. It's normal to not be ready. But when they are, then they have someone they can turn to. And before they are, they can look up to other situations that can inspire them maybe to have that light bulb moment. Um, in terms of the different responses to this, when shit hits the fan, you all react in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it really depends on so many factors. Again, this is Sunday psychology because I'm not a licensed therapist.
Right.
But what I've learned about trauma based on my own personal experience is that it shapes parts of us, and the way we react to traumas, the trauma responses that we develop from childhood and or adulthood, these are certain responses that we use to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are the most famous is, whether you fall into the victim or survivor mode when it comes to certain heavy abuse, or even the most common one is fight or flight.
Right.
In relationship, you will have people who are going to be anxious. You will have people who are going to be avoidant. You're going to have people who have both. Some people label themselves safe. So it's really what you live and how you're conditioned determines parts of you. And when it comes to reframing and mindset work, is understanding where you're coming from, why you are like this. Being self-aware is the first step to change.
That was gonna be my next question. I was gonna be like, okay, sounds like you beat me to it. So it sounds like from the two answers that you gave, the first one, most people are not ready for change unless they become super uncomfortable with the current situation. And then the second one is we just, that's just how we're conditioned. I was gonna say then this sounds like the first step is just understanding what is going on inside yourself. So in terms of, I see it as, and of course, obviously, share your opinion. I see it as two very distinct buckets, as in like how you were formed, like what is going on in terms of, emotional dysregulation, trauma, and biases that you have probably inherited from your immediate caregivers. And then the second part is basically just understanding who you are and what you want. Most people don't know this, and so they live with those buckets. One that is like, yeah, I kind of know some of my trauma, but it's still like mostly hidden and they just don't want to deal with that. And the second one, most people don't even ask themselves this question. They're like, yeah, I went to school for blah blah marketing. Let's use this example, and just that's what I do today. Like, what is it that you want to do? I don't know, would most people say.
And that's so scary because there is a societal pressure to knowing that. Like the biggest moments I've had, me personally, and in my workshops, where having an honest conversation about this. You don't need to have your shit figured out. You don't need to know everything about everything. In fact, there's an example that's probably going to resonate with you, about parenthood.
Mhm.
I had a friend who's a somatic worker. And he does breath work and only recently changed his life around that as well, when the shit hit the fan too much. and uh, and essentially, he shared a very beautiful story with his son as they went on a hike, and it was getting harder and harder. They were getting higher and higher, and it was super scary. And at some point, his son got very scared and didn't want to continue. He was like, I want to go home. Started throwing a fit. He was like, I'm too scared. I want to go home. This is too uncomfortable. And usually, the instinct of a parent is like, no, this is nothing. You can carry on. Like everything is going to be all right. And, it's almost like invalidating the feelings of the children.
Exactly.
And for the first time in his life, he made a decision to actually just tell his son, you know what? I'm scared too. I don't want to go home, but I'm scared too. I'm very, very scared. And actually, that moment, I just talking about it, it just makes me feel, I feel it everywhere in my soul. Um, because I can only imagine that super bonding moments that they
Yeah,
had
absolutely.
as his son gave up on wanting to go home and he completely relaxed. And he actually just carried on, said nothing and carried on. He jumped over that thing that was hard to continue over and he just carried on. Just needed to see that even when things are tough, you can carry on. And
And
we
it's
don't
okay to
give
be
enough.
scared.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We don't give enough that example, even around us. We just see the finished product. we don't see these moments of how many times the shit had to hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about how hard it was. We're just like, yeah, I was this and now I'm that. And it was magical. And it took only 2 years to change. But actually, these 2 years where the magic happened. So when I go on a workshop and we talk about like, what's your definition of success? And people are like, just, they don't have an answer, but they
Right.
feel like they're forced to give an answer. They're forced to have their shit figured out. And that was the most helpful thing for me is I don't need to have an answer to everything. It's okay to actually enjoy figuring your shit out. That's what I'm doing today. I'm enjoying figuring my shit out and taking people along the way with me.
I think I'm in a similar boat because I started this whole process, like I told you in the warm up, about a year ago, and I knew I needed the change, but I didn't know what exactly it was. And it took me like a good year to finally, and I was like, I saw the like the breadcrumbs along the way, but I could tell it was not exactly what I was looking for. And no joke, I just nailed it last week, like last week, to make it even more. I don't know, symbolic or whatever. I think I was looking at your profile when it finally hit me. There was a line somewhere, maybe on your website, on your LinkedIn bio. I can't remember what the line was, but it just hit me, and I was like, I know what I want. I know what I've been trying to do this entire time. I wanna help people escape the grind. With the grind being two things. Either the 9 to 5 that they hate, but they don't know what to do with it. And it's not about, like, so it's not about like what exactly you want to do. I'm like, how is it that you want to feel? What's sustainable for you? What is it that just like when you wake up in the morning and you feel okay? On the other hand, the founders that I've seen like crash and burn because they don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know how to manage their stress response, etc. So for me, it's still the grind. I'm like, yeah, you have your business, you're making a lot of money, but you're still grinding. You're online 24/7. You don't even know what your kids have been doing for the last 2 years. I'm like, you're grinding. It's even worse than the 9 to 5. This is your 24/7 personal self. So it hit me last week. I was like, yes. And it has really helped my motivation because podcast is one of the, I call them side quests that I do. Another one is I'm trying to build this app and I'm like, yeah, kind of know what I want. And now finally, I'm like, yes, a year. And I think it's totally fine. But I did feel the pressure of like being able to answer the questions like, so what's your mission? What is it you want to know? I'm like, I don't know. I would get this like, like almost a panic attack breathing because I just felt like I needed to have an answer and I didn't. And finally, I was like, you know what? That's fine that I don't have the answer. So thank you. This is like super validating.
Mhm. It's so beautiful. We're always like one step away from a change in perspective, right? And
Exactly.
that's what it is. You never know who's going to be the next person you're going to talk to that is going to change your life forever. The next phrase you're going to hear, the next thing you're going to see, and it's worth continuing to share. Sharing is like really powerful. I think these shares are super powerful. We're both going to come out like growing on top of all the audience, and then they're going to get inspired to share their own stories. Please do, if you're listening, like share your own story with everyone because everyone has a story worth sharing, and people don't realize it. Everyone
Exactly.
has different levels of resilience. It's
Mm-hmm.
just some of us are better are doing it in certain areas of life. Some people are super good at being resilient with their business and they
Right.
don't transfer that in their relationships. There was this beautiful
Guilty
episode.
as charged.
There was this amazing episode of Esther Perel being interviewed by Stephen Bartlett. And they were talking about relationships, and she's a relationships like expert.
I love
And
her. I love her.
the key that she was saying, if you were treating your business like you're treating your partner, your business wouldn't be where it is today. And it's so powerful because I speak to people about the growth mindset that is at the core, of course, of like how how you change, how you reframe mindset. And I've had people asking me, but why is that so important? Like everyone has a growth mindset. Like when you don't get the promotion, you just go and you ask for feedback and you build on it and you build a plan and you improve yourself. And I turn to that person, I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. If you've nailed it, that's great.
Right.
There's so many people who got this. It's like, when was the last time you asked for feedback after an argument with your girlfriend? And he was like, but are you crazy? I mean, she would gouge my eyes out if I was to give her feedback. And it's like, that's interesting. I never asked you to give her feedback. It's just to show that we're all very good at doing certain things, but have a massive area of improvement for others. And is understanding that once you have the recipe to change, once you understand the process of transformation and reframing, then you can adapt it to everything. So when you go in companies and teach people how to reframe their mindset about something at work, they gain something invaluable for their life, not
Mm-hmm.
just as a leader in this business, but as maybe a future entrepreneur, as a parent, as a partner, as a human being. And that's what's beautiful with the mind, because it's really it's at the core of it all. Um, it's truly powerful.
It is. In the warm up, we you talked about the inner child work. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it? Maybe even give a personal example, which is always obviously the best, or maybe an example of somebody whom you've helped do that, because a lot of people don't even really know what that is, and I think it will be great for listeners to understand what it represents.
Yeah, absolutely. So inner child work was something that you can do with a therapist. I would recommend doing with a licensed therapist, even if there are certain coaches that offer that. The reason why is that it was part of the regular therapy. I have a therapist, I have a coach, I see them regularly, and I'm super grateful of that. That's also part of what changed my life in the last couple
Hmm.
of years, and for therapy in the last so many years. I can't even remember. Um, but most importantly, inner child work is acknowledging that there are certain childhood traumas that we have lived due to unmet and met needs when we were a child that have impacted us. And it's a way to start understanding parts of yourself. And in my case, I started doing that work when I looked at relationships. And after a relationship breakdown, I was looking at, okay, I'm just repeating a pattern here. I'm getting into a loop in my life, in my entire life, and this is not working for me. And at some point, I had this revelation where I felt so miserable after that separation. And the pain was so hard. When we talk about the motivation to change,
Right.
the pain was so big that at some point it became insanity. And I was like, hold on a second. This is insane. This is not normal. And it is not a normal feeling. And it pushed me to look at, okay, hold on a second. Insanity is when you repeat the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was doing with my
Mhm.
relationships. And the inner child work helped me look at some deep traumas that had shaped me, that had shaped as well how I was at work, that had shaped this drive for excellence, the perfectionism, the super like strong hand, and I take a project, I run with it, and it has to be a certain way, and I'm going to refine the process for it to excel. It has also helped me develop empathy to be able to serve my clients better, which I've done for 10 years in customer success management. So the trauma has helped me develop part of myself that are a real asset,
Right.
but I just didn't know how this all came to play. So with the inner child work, understanding how you are conditioned, you can take your life back basically and understand, okay, what helped shape the best parts of you, what helped shape the worst parts of
More.
you,
Mhm.
and how you can turn all this into your advantage for it to become a strength.
So, would you say there are certain things that are ingrained into our brain from the childhood that we cannot really change no matter how we try? We just need to learn how to make the best out of it.
Hmm. As a mindset coach, I would say that everything is possible in terms of change. It is harder in certain situations. What I'd say is the most important thing. It's really, it's really understanding how it got to be shaped. It's really about that having that growth mindset or fixed mindset. Is okay, this is how it is. I'm not going to change. I'm set this way. I was conditioned that way because of that. Or you can understand how you came to be that way and then,
Hmm.
okay, what could help me to have a different belief? Which is the different belief that I can have that can serve me better? And I think that's the process of transformation and mindset shift that is useful to you, is acknowledging that, yes, you've been through a tough time. It generated a certain behavior. You can't change the past, but what you have control over is how you're going to react to today's trigger. And that is in your power and that you can change.
You mentioned from your own side the perfectionism. What did you do about that? Are you still a perfectionist or were you able to let go a little bit?
Uh, Learning to let go was the biggest gift, especially as you get into entrepreneurship. I think I've had an interview with Justy that you've interviewed a few episodes ago as well. And she was highlighting how important like this entrepreneurial journey just gets to expose all your triggers.
Yep.
Because it's like you facing everything. And that was a great opportunity to learn to let go. Because when you're running your own business and you're doing like 5 different jobs at the same
Yeah.
time, you have to let go of perfectionism. Like there are certain things that are not going to be perfect. And it was a very, very good lesson that there's not ever going to be a perfect time to start. The perfect time is now. Just fucking do it. Don't wait. Like that is the thing. That is one thing that I actually start talking to like younger generation and younger people. And I'm like, if I could give one advice to younger me, is to not wait anymore. Just do things, make mistakes. It's all right. Like start, just start from somewhere. If it doesn't work, you're going to just learn. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. And I think that's like the beauty of letting go of that. Like perfectionism stems from, you know, for me, for example, it was growing up thinking that I had to get shit right from the get go straight away because it had repercussions.
Because
If I
otherwise you won't be like approved by your parents.
Yeah, it's beyond approval. There was approval. There would be like physical corrections. There would be even just like I remember trying to read a piece of text and then, yeah, you get hit on the head because you don't read the sentence right the get go. It's these things that, these little things that can get people to behave a certain way. Um, there were other components to it as well, and it's really draining on your self-esteem. And it's a process to appreciate that that was then, but today is not the case anymore. That
Mm-hmm.
life is about learning how to fail, It's about learning to learn. It's about learning to not get attached to certain things. And that's the beauty of it, is to live. I think we prevent ourselves from living. When we get caught in escapism, we don't live the present moment. When you don't remember what you've done every single night because you were too hammered, you'll miss out on this life. But you only live once. So what's the point of living half dead?
That's a very good question. I think a lot of times people are just so focused on the things that they don't have that it actually does lead them to all these bad habits. Because I've heard once that a recipe to dealing with perfectionism, and this is my own personal hell of a problem too, and sometimes I'm able to, deal with it in the right way, sometimes I'm not. So, and I've accepted that it is the way that it is. I was told that sometimes it's actually basically like keeping the eyes on the prize is what can help you deal with the perfectionism, as in basically, like you said, if you're trying to run a business and there are a million things you need to be doing, there's no way you'll do all of them in the right way. But you gotta keep it going, because otherwise your end goal is never gonna come. As in, like, oh, you need to perfect. I mean, silly example, right? This Instagram post. So otherwise, I'm not gonna post it. And then a year from now, you haven't posted a thing because you were so focused on a teeny tiny thing. So do you feel like keeping the eyes on the prize, like on your actual like final destination as a phase? Again, I don't think there is one final destination, but like as a milestone, as a phase. Do you think that is helpful when it comes to, I would say, both perfectionism and the imposter syndrome, which are like the two, I would say probably like two things on the same scale, or maybe two faces of the same coin, as to say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think to answer one part of your question is having a life vision, having that prize is essential. Having a goal is essential. What we need to reframe our mindset is perfectioning that goal. So you can have a life vision that guides you, but you have to let go of the fact that you have to get that life vision. Like,
Right.
this is
Right.
the only thing
Mm-hmm.
that can change.
Mm-hmm.
It will.
Oh, yes, that's a very good point. That it can actually, yes, there can be an evolution of that, and it's also okay. Yeah.
So you can set yourself a goal, and it's essential to keep yourself going. You need to know which direction you're heading towards. But then what you can let go of is perfectioning that process. Just set a goal, a destination, start working towards it, and things will get clearer in the process. And to do so, of course, there's a lot of like trusting yourself that
Okay.
you don't need to get every step the way absolutely perfect, as long as you're heading towards that direction. Then the second layer of it is enjoying that process. Because if you're too focused on the outcome and you're not enjoying your journey, again, you're missing out on your life.
Right.
So, how do you find a way to enjoy this journey? I think a few questions ago, we were talking, how to change things, how to, in a certain way we're conditioned, and how do you change that? And how is it about learning how to live with it? And when it comes to imposter syndrome, or how I like to call it, the negative voices in your head, the biggest mistake is that we try to shut it down without listening to it, like brush it under the carpet,
That's true.
pretend it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst actually the process to overcome those negative voices is to learn how to live with them better, how to navigate it better. There's a tip that I give in my workshops is name it. And Carol Dweck, who's the big researcher
Right.
as well on the growth mindset, give these tips in her book. Name it. Take that kind of alter ego that is nagging at you and give them a name so you can separate it from yourself. So you know it's not your mind, is, oh, this is the negative Nancy. Like for me, mine is called the Baba Yaga because I was watching John Wick. So I've called it the Baba Yaga, and it's this ogre that is here to eat your positive thoughts. So I'm like, when I'm in a situation where I have very, very dark thoughts, because it happens,
Of
it's not
course.
because you're an adept of positive psychology
Right.
that life is always rosy for me, but it's because it's not that I know how to make that shift. It's
Right.
because we practice it every day. I have to handle my shadows every day and then live better and better and better with them every single day.
It's like working out, right? You cannot just go to the gym for a month and be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, it's a long process. So that's how it is about. See, you name it before you shame it. But you name it and you dissociate yourself from this negativity. You understand that it doesn't come from you. A lot of things are input there by the way you were brought up, by society, by your parents, by your friends, by what teacher told you at school, by what your colleagues are telling you. A lot of the things that we have in our head are just inputs from the outside, and understanding how to navigate it. Sometimes even when I've had like a catch up with a friend that is going through a very rough patch or very negative periods in their life, I sit there and I find myself in a terrible mood. And I'm like, hold on a second. Why am I in this mood? There's nothing terrible that has happened to me. I'm just letting the influence of someone I love very much affect me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we shared that connection.
Right.
So it's like just asking yourself that question. I sit with this feeling. I'm aware of it. Where is it coming from? Is it mine? Okay, it's coming from there. So what is mine? Where do I sit? Well, I'm just sad my friend feels this way. Or it could be your colleague, or it could be anyone you work with, or your family, your partner. But it's not where I am. Truly, I'm happy. So I can carry on.
Right.
And these check-ins are important because sometimes when you pause, you can either see that there's something inherently wrong that you deserve to sit with and work on, or that actually things are right. And it's like when a report breaks down at work, a reporting tool, any solution, I don't know, and you're like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Is it though? Is it truly the end of the world? Do you have nothing else to bring?
I really like that one because what I've tried to ask myself is this going to be important a year from now? Am I going to look back at this and be like, yeah, truly, that was a shit show? Or am I going to look back at this and be like, what the hell was that? So I think this is the reframing, right? I'm not adept in those terms yet, although hopefully soon. But
No.
I've helped. There are a few things that I've adopted recently, as in the last year, that have really truly helped me just stay afloat and not have this roller coaster of like one day high, another day low. I'm like, I'm pretty happy with being on the average most of the time. Surely there are still tiny dips and tiny peaks, but they're not as extreme as they used to be because that was wearing me out. It's wearing me out so badly.
And it was focusing too much perhaps on that prize.
Probably, yeah.
Because
Always having like, I need to have a goal. I need to hit a goal. What is the goal? Goal, 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 goal. And it wasn't even like making me happy. I think it was something that was dictated to me as in like, oh, you gotta get that promotion, or you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And it's just I was so caught up in that. And then finally I was like, all right, stop. What is exactly that I enjoy? Oh, and that he must be one of those bigger influencers whom I heard it from. Um there was basically there is a question that everybody needs to ask themselves, and a lot of people struggle with the answer. What is it that you enjoyed doing as a child? That helped me tremendously to refocus and understand that I've been doing absolutely freaking nothing that I've enjoyed for the last 5 years. Just working and doing some routine. I'm like, there is nothing that I do that I enjoy. I don't have, like, there is, some people are runners, some people are yogis, some people are something else. And I was nobody. And I'm like, I don't like that. I want to have a couple of things that I truly enjoy doing that kind of just define part of my personality because I wanted to belong. That was another thing. I'm like, I don't, besides like friends, I don't really belong in a circle. And that was another like big revelation that has helped me just get on a better track.
Mm. What did you find then from something you enjoyed as a child that you're finally able to do today?
Writing. I enjoyed writing poetry when I was a child, just like silly little poems. Most of them were like about love or I don't know nature, and I've gotten back into it. Drawing and painting was also something that I did that I completely forgot. It took me like an hour of sitting down and trying to like scroll through my memories of what is exactly that I was doing as a kid, and I like truly enjoyed. That wasn't part of some, gotta do list type of thing. And then there is one other thing that I've really want to get back into. I liked basically like sewing clothes together. This is something that has really been like a big thing for me. And I have completely forgotten that I did it, but mostly for like my toys and my dolls. But this is something that hit me, I don't know, a few years ago. And I was like, well, I wish I could just really do some fashion design. It's like, I really like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm nobody to do this. And then when I remembered that, like, so a year ago from now, I was like, so that thought about the fashion design wasn't random. It's actually something that I really enjoyed doing as a child. I just completely forgot about it.
Mhm.
But it was, for me, it was such a big, like, those few things was such a big relation because I do that and I'm like super happy. And then all of a sudden, I have more energy, I have more focus, I have more motivation just because I did things that I just truly enjoy.
That is so true. And it reminds me, someone was saying, again, another influencer, multiple ones, burning out is not, you don't burn out by just doing too much of things you don't like to do. You burn out by not doing enough of what you love.
Yes. Amen.
And it is so true
It is
because
so.
those routines and habits that we were talking
Mhm.
about at the beginning of the episode, they are what's keeping me sane because I incorporated habits and routine that is the things that I enjoy doing. So I do meditate, journal, and move every single day. And when I don't, I'm a wreck. You can blame the endorphin. I will always journal. And so writing is part of my daily routine, separately from the book
Mhm.
I'm writing, but it's really part of the daily routine. And meditating is having that space to question yourself,
Right. Right.
where you are at. But then also fitness is an important component. So I would say when it's not there, it feels missing and it impacts
Mhm.
food other than the chemicals, of course, that it generates. So we're not going to lie, there is an addiction to fitness as well, that it
Right.
needs to be treated like carefully. It's something that people do push it to an extreme that becomes
Right.
unhealthy.
Mhm.
So I'm not promoting unhealthy habits. I'm promoting the ones that keep you grounded, and it's just a little bit to maintain your sanity and your health. And when you learn how to nurture better habits for yourself, you can navigate these things. When you get to know yourself, you can navigate life, work, the balance in between the two, how to spot like burnout signs, how to build your resilience. Once you understand how to transform something and turn it into your advantage, you've mastered skill for life.
Is burnout signs or are burnout signs kind of equal for different people, or is it just like a completely individual thing?
It's so different.
Okay.
we're so unique, right? Because the
Mhm.
same way someone who has gone through a similar trauma will have a different trauma response. Burnout is going to be different. Um, I'm super lucky. I've never ended up in a hospital due to burnout. Uh, for me, it was more in the brain. It led me to depression, which is the ultimate, like final stage
Right.
of how it can express as well itself. But some people have gone through hospital with autoimmune diseases. And I use this example because it's not always attached to burnout. It's not often acknowledged, but burnout can have very serious impacts on people's health, not only mental health, but physical health. And what
Right.
I like to say is, once you're in the freaking hospital, how you going to run your business? When you're in the freaking hospital, how you going to lead your team? So yes, it's important to think of, I want to make money, but how are you going to make money if you're not there? Who is it going to serve anyway if you're not
Exactly.
there? You're not
Exactly.
taking it with you, right? So yeah, maybe you can have a better quality hospital, but again, what's good is going to do to you. So it's like, I'm
Oh, but
only,
coffin, right? You can
yeah,
have the coffin.
yeah, a beautiful one. Uh,
Exactly.
and it's really, I'm not oblivious here. I understand that in life, we need money. And if you understand that it's a tool as opposed to something that is going to turn to your master, it can serve you well. But to be able to drive it, to be able to think clearly, to continue being the smart you and to be creative with how you're going to make your craft better, you need your health because that you only have one. Money comes and goes. Business, how many people have like built 5, 9 businesses that shut down before having the big one that drove success?
Right.
Everything comes and goes. People in your life will come and go. But your health, when it's gone, you're gone. And that's why it's like the most valuable resource that we need to look after.
This is something that comes up almost in every episode. For me, there was one of the previous guests that gave me this phrase that I keep using now. He said, sharpen your axe. If you want to cut down the trees, you got to sharpen your axe because what's good going to come from an axe that is just so, what's the opposite of sharp? Flat, I guess. If you just like, you keep, trying to cut the tree, but the axe is just so bad that the tree won't budge. So at some point, it's like the axe is broken and you are the axe.
Hmm.
So I think it's like a lot of people undervalue and overlook the importance of this whole. I call it. I started calling it somewhat baseline. So having some of the fitness routine doesn't, like you said, doesn't have to be something crazy, but some movement like moving your body, doing some meditation, some mindfulness exercises, journaling, whatever else like helps your mind and helps your body, and like just sleeping and eating. For me,
Mm.
it was the sleep that was really screwing it up. At some point, I was able to spot the patterns, as in I wouldn't sleep enough, and enough for me is at the very least 7 hours. At the very least, if I sleep less than that continuously for more than 3 days, oh my god, I'm the Baba Yaga. Yeah. But it took me a while to make that connection because I just kept thinking, oh, I'm young, whatever, it's going to be fine. And when I had one kid and then the other kid, obviously you're breastfeeding, you're up all night, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, that's normal. But then when that continued, because I was still going through these patterns of sleep, I was like, okay, what is off? And then I was finally able to connect to sleep. And it's like one of the most overlooked things, just good qualitative sleep when you're able to sleep through the night.
Mm. Oh, I feel you. Like sleep has always been like something that I struggled with,
Mm-hmm.
and the routine has helped. Like having a bedtime routine, having like that building up to that moment of
Right.
mindfulness as you go to sleep. I also use magnesium. I found the brand that suits me. But it was, see, it had to be through trial and errors.
Right.
It had to be trying different things, understanding different things. It wasn't like from one day to another that I woke up and I decided, oh my God, alcohol is not good for me. It's just, it took time, first of all, to develop an unhealthy relationship with it. And then it took time to develop a better relationship with myself that made me
Without it.
understand that that was something
Mm-hmm.
not serving me. It was
Mm-hmm.
affecting my sleep. It was affecting something that I love to do, AK movement.
Right.
And, you know, it all, I think it's important as well to really understand that it's not that simple and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And test and learn is an enjoyable process if you allow yourself to do so.
Right.
If you allow yourself to just want to figure things out, just start. That's
I
the
think
entrepreneurial tip. Don't wait. Just do it. That side hustle that you've been thinking of, and then you're like, but nobody is interested in. Do it. So what? Worst case, nobody is into it. That's it. You've learned something in the process. At least you don't have that dream hanging over you. Oh, if no, maybe if you would have failed earlier and moved on from it and dreamt bigger about something else. So just do it now. Go try your thing. Try so many different things. Just do it. I've held myself back for so long, making excuses, and I wasn't ready for that change, but eventually I got there. So if there could be just half a person that could think, oh my God, yeah, and go and like turn off the pod when they finish and go and do something that they haven't done before, that's a freaking win. Like,
it is absolutely. But what you said just right before that is that we gotta give ourselves some grace because a lot of times I think we just have all this like expectations for ourselves and we're like not good enough, not good enough. And this is something that I say to my team now. I'm like, just give yourself some grace. I'm like, let's give ourselves some grace because they will be like, yeah, we did this. They would like name 5 things they've accomplished and be like, but we didn't do the last one, so the whole thing sucks. I'm like, no, like you just named 5 things that you got right, and you're killing yourself over one thing that you got wrong. Like, no, give yourself some fucking grace. We all deserve it. And I think it's like empathy to ourselves, right? We can be empathetic to other people, and then a lot of times we would like reserve none of that for ourselves.
hmm. Oh, that is so powerful because that is the consistent challenge with perfectionism, right? You
Exactly.
accept that others are not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't still get your head around the fact that you're not perfect either. And of course, it stems from like so many different things, but it's a practice, like everything.
Right.
The more you practice giving yourself grace, the more you practice being imperfect as you see, and
Right.
that everything is okay. Like that Instagram post, the more you practice doing it. And then there's this challenge. Just do it for 2 weeks. Make a post, anything, post about anything on Instagram, on LinkedIn, whatever your platform is. Pick one and post every day for 15 days. Just make a video, write a text, anything. Just do it. And as soon as you go to that first thing, to that first hurdle of the first time, it's going to be painful. I mean, do you remember the first time you tried to shoot your first video? Oh my God. I was like, that was excruciating. But then you look at that, what was produced the first time, and just 2 weeks later, when you look back, you start seeing the improvement. You start seeing the quality of the content. You start seeing the quality of engagement. You start seeing the quality of things. And actually, maybe you start enjoying talking in front of the camera,
Right.
or you start enjoying putting content out there. And it's just start, because if you don't, you will never know if you enjoy the process.
Exactly.
And behind perfectionism, there is this fear of not being good enough. I hate saying this expression. I feel like the more we say it, the more we spread it. It's like, no, you are good enough. And whatever you put out there will be perfect for someone. But if you don't put it out there, this is something you're taking away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So put yourself, no matter what level, because whatever you produce is going to be useful and of service of somebody else. And the more you withhold that, you're kind of penalizing the others from seeing that wonderful thing that you can't even see about yourself yet.
It's like hitting the raw spot for me right now because this is something that I've struggled with for a very long time. It's basically when I started the podcast. So before even I was thinking, okay, who am I to talk about this? I don't have any credentials. I'm not a therapist, not a psychologist, not whatever. And so I would just basically stop myself from doing anything just because I thought I'm not qualified. I'm not good enough. And then when I finally got over that hump, I started thinking, okay, well, I'm not producing anything groundbreaking. So why should I even bother? But I'm like, nobody else producing anything groundbreaking. It's just you get to certain, like I said, to certain number of people that would probably otherwise never hear it or never see it. So it's like everybody has, like I said at the very beginning, everybody has a story to tell. Mm. And those stories can be so helpful. But if you don't share that story, you have penalized, just like you said, somebody who could have heard it and that would have made a difference for them.
Yeah. And it's normal to feel that way. Right? That's the thing with so many people go through that. And I think the more we repress ourselves from talking about it,
Mhm.
the more we just perpetuate it. But it's okay. It's okay to feel scared to put ourselves out there. It's okay because this is how it is. But it's also okay to try.
Right.
And it's okay. The first time, I'm not lying, the first post would get 0 views, or the same 3 friends that are going to like it. And maybe even after the 14 days or the 2 weeks, it's going to be the same thing, that you'll grow through the process. And it's about having that consistency as well to continue doing something. That's how you build resilience. It's like continue doing something and adjusting and learning to grow and expand through the process. And if you focus on the growth, you're like, okay, what's the thing when you say to yourself that you're not good enough? Well, you can tell also yourself, not yet. You're not good enough at posting on
Mhm.
social media yet.
That's
You're
good.
not maybe good enough yet at hosting something. I know that I went through that process as well.
Mhm.
Well, I needed to be a licensed therapist before like having to handle trauma
I
and
went through the same thought process.
so many things. I've went and like passed my NLP practitioner license and I studied and it's good. It is good. But what was important also through the process is that I didn't wait to graduate to run workshops. I
Right.
didn't wait to graduate to start talking to people about my business.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't wait to get paid clients to start doing pro bono work.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you do, the more you improve, the more you get better.
Exactly.
There's this super bad expression that is practice makes perfect. And I love it as well because for me now, it's practice makes better.
Ooh, I love the correction.
I
That
don't want to
removed
be
pressure from
perfect.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be perfect. I just want to be better, a better version of myself. 1% better every day. And compounded, you get there.
Exactly. I think attached to that is another phrase. It's like the only competition that you have is with yourself. Because a lot of times people just try to compete with other people. I'm like, you're never going to win that.
Yeah.
Never going to win that.
And it's not worth the win. because there's
Exactly.
always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone less good.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get in that aspect, yeah, it's going to be a forever external validation chase. But
Exactly.
the important thing is like how you validate yourself, because you can get all the validation, the external validation of the world. You're never going to be happy. If you're not full by yourself, it's never going to be fulfilling. And we have stories telling us that, like the amount, all the self help books, all the influencers, all the success stories out there, they're like, I went there, I achieved that, but there was something missing. As soon as the common denominator of all these stories is the connection with themselves.
Right.
And like, it is so important to not lose yourself in the process. Because, yeah, you can go, you can achieve this and that, but then you've wasted tremendous amount of time getting to
Mm-hmm.
know yourself better,
Mm-hmm.
getting to love yourself better. And I think like the best adventure that I'm excited about, like in my life, is like the process of falling in love with myself.
That's so important.
Yeah. I was trying for so long to feel completed by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, even in work, like I needed a company to make me feel like I belonged and
Right.
to make me feel recognized and to have
Mm-hmm.
that social aspect to that. And I always thought, well, I'm a good employee. I'm not like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I like to be surrounded by people.
Mm-hmm.
How it's funny, like I talk to people all the time. I'm not that alone. Yes, I have responsibilities that are only sitting on me, but at the same time, it gives me plenty of time to treat myself better as well.
Right.
And that's super important, to discover parts of myself that I didn't, to know that I'm capable of more than I believed that was. And it was super enlightening in that process.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need the external thing at all time, or it's not as fulfilling as we are made to believe it is.
But I think this basically falling in love with yourself, this self-acceptance, and just really being fully in sync with yourself is, for me, is like almost the peak of the mountain. I'm like, you do other work to get there, because once you get there, everything else can unravel. I wouldn't say a lot easier, but considerably easier. Because once you're just totally, you're like your own best friend, everything else gets a lot easier. Whereas if you're trying to push yourself in a certain box, this is where things are just not going to work out. And I've discovered that through both professional and personal relationship. Whenever I tried um, presenting myself for who I was not, just because I thought I would be more like that way, that has always failed, always failed. So when I finally embraced everything that I was, I started seeing a very positive change. Even my environment changed. Like new friends came into my life, new opportunities, new everything. When I finally just said to myself, "This is who I am, and I like it, not ashamed of it." So it's just everything started changing.
Is beautiful because we don't allow ourselves to be our authentic self. We're scared.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even though even like the opposite of it, I see, because for me, my defense mechanism was to always like, well, this is me. I don't care about nobody else, like what you think about me, and like take it or leave it, right? I've
Mhm.
softened so much over the course of the last 2, 3 years. And I am so grateful to have found that point of peace where it that didn't need to be always me against the world. And finding that peace is, it's not a weakness, it's generally an additional strength to be able to be happier with yourself and to be like, yeah, I mean, I want my tribe to surround me. I want
Right.
to work with clients I'm happy to work with. I don't want to work with someone I don't like. Bluntly put, I have the freedom to do that today and appreciate it. And same. You don't have to be around people you don't like or you don't want to be around. I'm happy to be my weird self and to find people who are the same weird. And we're going to be
Exactly.
how weird together, you know? And that's absolutely fine for me. I'm happy to have meet other people who are inherently different and we can teach each other stuff. That's
Right.
absolutely fine. But your close circle, the people you spend your most amount of time with, your environment is crucial. We're only the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with.
Mm-hmm.
So picking them carefully, everything you listen to, the music you listen to, those lyrics are playing in your mind. Everything that in your environment is affecting you, whether you realize it or not. So those other parents you're doing small talks at the exit of school with, beware of that, what they're putting in your mind, the judgments they have on you. Like that's something also to be protective about. And these things we don't realize it, but you can heal. But if you are in the environment that still makes you sick, that is not going to work.
Exactly.
That,
Exactly.
that's why like I could work with just with people one on one and like save the world one burnout at a time
Right.
by one person. But it's important to me that we all take responsibility in having a collective and a system and processes around us in the workplace, outside the workplace, that are in favor of a better society, a better place for everyone to be.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, this has been such a good episode. For me, it felt like part validation, part therapy. So thank you so much for everything that we've discussed, for sharing your story or stories. What I usually do at the end of each episode is that I give listeners the homework of some of the things that we have talked about in the episode. Why that matters is that because some people, like I said, they would have like a light bulb during the episode and the end be like, yeah, that felt good. And then like the end. But if we maybe repeat some of the like key things that we want listeners to do, the first one, I absolutely want to be what you have said throughout the episodes. Like, if you're listening, you want to do something, just go fucking do it. Like that side hustle, side project, whatever you have, just like go do it. Second one that I loved is naming the negative voice in your head, because I think this is also like a super quick tip that people can apply. And I think the third one is the connected with the inner child is like sit down and write down 5 things that you used to love doing as a child. Minimum 5. Have to make it 5. And then cross out the ones that you're doing today and see how many of them are actually going to be crossed out.
That is super powerful. Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree. These are the important component of things. There's one last one that I would add that we didn't
Yeah.
like put words on is that everything is temporary.
Cool. I like that.
Everything is temporary because, and because of that, because everything is temporary, it's important to not fucking wait. You only live once.
Lovely.
You only that age that you are. You always the younger you're ever going to be. So just do it now. Just fucking do it. Don't wait. Act now. The consequences, problem for future self. Don't worry about it. Because everything is temporary. The good things are temporary. The bad things are too. So no matter where you are at, like you say, some days you wake up and you feel shit and it's crap for the business and you've had a bad call and you've had to make hard decisions or, you know, your child told you something hurtful or you regretted something that you've done. There are bad days for many reasons, or you felt like you couldn't get out of bed and you hate yourself for it. But it's temporary. There is
Right.
a light at the end of the tunnel. So when you hear those negative voices, think about the fact that it's not you. You can name them, and it's only temporary. They're not going to have a hold on you forever. Once you acknowledge them, you can then focus on giving yourself that kindness that this is not me. This is what I was used to hear. But if I could ask myself how I could see things differently, this is the positive opposite of what I heard.
I
And
see.
that's leading us exactly to the work with the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything is temporary. At some point, you were doing the things that you love doing. And then you didn't have that in your life for so long. And then now you're able to do it again. Nothing is fixed. Everything can change. So transformation is always possible. Always.
Soaking that in. One last question. What is the best way to find you and get in touch with you for those who would like to possibly work with you?
Very easy. Same way you found me on LinkedIn. My name is Mouna Laaragat. On LinkedIn and Instagram, it's the Grit Makers. The website is gritmakers.com. And finally, on YouTube, it's on Resilience, the channel, inspirational channel for inspirational stories as well. There is a form on my website for people to fill in if they want to partake. Um, and yeah, like, let's fucking do it. Let's change together.
Awesome. We'll tag all of your links in the episode description as well, obviously. Mona, thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a wonderful discussion. Like I said, for me, it felt like part validation, part therapy. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to the like part 2 episode.
Yes, I would love that. And obviously, I'm always cooking up some stuff with especially with the resilience podcast just came out of the blue. Naturally, just boom, became this space, that we're creating together now. It's
Mm-hmm.
magical. It's so powerful. I couldn't like help myself from it. And then it started monthly, and now I'm looking to scale. So from September, I think I'm gonna be going like full on weekly. With a
Congrats.
mixture, yeah, with a mixture of things. And same, it's not perfect, but people come share their stories, they feel wholesome, and they go, and that's all that matters. So thanks for creating that space for me today, and I look forward to creating the same as well for you.
Thank you so much.